The chamber fell silent as the message played for the third time. Ambassador Yuna's face appeared on the massive screen, her expression calm and professional. Her words were simple and clear. The United Earth government respectfully declines your invitation to appear before the Galactic Council. Humanity will continue its expansion into unclaimed territories. We wish you well. High Chancellor Oryx slammed his clawed hand against the stone table. The ancient reptilian had ruled the council for 2 centuries, and in all that time, no species had ever refused a summons. His golden eyes burned with fury as he looked around at the other council members. This is an insult to 12,000 years of galactic law. Councillor Vreth, the towering insectoid from the Enforcement Division, clicked his mandibles in agreement. They are a young species. They achieved faster than light travel only 50 years ago. They should be grateful we even acknowledge their existence. His compound eyes reflected the light as he turned to face the assembly. I propose we send a military fleet to their colonies. They will learn respect. Councillor Nira, a small amphibious being with soft blue skin, raised her webbed hand. Her voice was gentle but firm. Perhaps we should ask ourselves why they declined. Humans have been peaceful in all their interactions. They trade with border worlds. They have not attacked anyone. Why would they suddenly show such disrespect? Because they are expanding into restricted zones. Vreth's voice rose to a sharp screech. They have established colonies in the burning reaches, in the dead belt. And now they are moving toward the ghost sectors. These territories were marked as forbidden for good reason. They are death traps. No intelligent species should want them. Oryx pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red zones marked the restricted territories, areas deemed too dangerous for colonization. In the past 3 years, small blue dots had appeared throughout these red zones. Each dot represented a human colony. There were already 47 of them, and more appeared every month. They're not asking permission, Nira observed quietly. They're simply going where they want to go. Far from the council chambers, on a military station orbiting Earth, Admiral Minho stood before a wall of screens showing fleet positions. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. His uniform was clean and simple, with only a few medals on his chest. He did not believe in showing off. Admiral, the council has sent another message, his aide said, handing him a datapad. They're threatening economic sanctions if we don't respond. Minho read the message and set the pad down. Economic sanctions from species that need our medicine and technology more than we need their luxuries. How interesting. He looked at the map showing human colonies spreading across the frontier. What's the status of the new colony ships? 20 more are ready to launch, sir. Colony sites have been selected in the Aurora Wastes and the Titan Graveyards. The Titan Graveyards? Minho raised an eyebrow. That's a high-gravity zone. 4 times Earth. Normal. Yes, sir. The colonists volunteered specifically for that location. They say it'll be good for building strong communities. The aide shrugged. Apparently there's a waiting list. Minho smiled slightly. Of course there is. Humans have never been afraid of hard work. Approve the launch. And send a message to Ambassador Yuna. Tell her to maintain her position. We negotiate with equals, not with those who think they can order us around. Back at the council chambers, an emergency session had been called. Representatives from all member species filled the Great Hall. The mood was tense and uncertain. For thousands of years, the council had maintained order through a simple system. They controlled access to the safest, most valuable territories. Any species that wanted to thrive had to follow council rules. But humans were different. They didn't want the safe territories. They went to places other species avoided. Places where the radiation was high, where the gravity was crushing, where the temperatures could melt steel or freeze atmosphere solid. And somehow, they not only survived there, but thrived. Captain Gina received her orders while her ship, the reconnaissance vessel Eternal Watch, was on patrol near the border zones. She was a career officer, methodical and thorough. Her mission was simple: observe human colonies and report back to the council. Take us to the nearest human settlement, she ordered her crew. But maintain a safe distance. We're here to watch, not to interact. Her ship moved silently through space toward a human colony in the scorched ring, a region surrounding a dying star. The radiation levels there were 50 times what Council species considered safe. It should have been empty, lifeless. Instead, Gina's sensors picked up a thriving settlement. Domed cities dotted the surface of 3 different planets. Ships moved between them, carrying cargo and passengers. Energy signatures showed active mining operations, farms, research facilities, and what looked like a shipyard under construction. "This is impossible," her science officer whispered. "No one can live here. Our shielding is already at maximum capacity, and we're barely holding back the radiation. How are they surviving down there?" Gina studied the readings carefully. "Look at their shield generators. The design is completely different from ours. They're not trying to block the radiation. They're channeling it, using it as a power source." She shook her head in disbelief. They turned a hazard into an advantage. A message suddenly appeared on her screen. It was from the human colony below, sent on an open channel so her entire crew could hear it. A woman's voice, friendly and casual, spoke in perfect Council common language. "Hello, Eternal Watch. Welcome to New Prosperity Colony. If you need anything, supplies or repairs, feel free to contact us. Otherwise, have a safe journey." The transmission ended. Gina stared at her screen, stunned. They had known the Council ship was there the entire time. They had tracked it, identified it, and then casually offered assistance as if watching them was perfectly normal. "Ma'am, should we respond?" her communications officer asked. "No," Gina said slowly. "Just take detailed scans of everything you can. The Council needs to see this." On Earth, Ambassador Yuna sat in her office, looking out at the blue planet below. She had served as humanity's representative to the galactic community for 10 years. She understood the Council's ways, their traditions, their pride. She also understood that humanity could not, would not, bend to their demands. Her assistant entered with another message from the Council. This one was marked urgent, with the High Chancellor's personal seal. Yuna opened it and read quickly. "They're demanding we appear before them within 30 days, she told her assistant. "If we refuse again, they'll consider it an act of war." "What will you tell them?" Yuna thought for a moment, then smiled. "The truth. That humanity doesn't need their permission to exist. That we'll continue expanding because that's what we do, and that if they truly want war with us, they should ask themselves one simple question first." "What question?" "If we're crazy enough to colonize death worlds for fun, what do they think we'll do to protect them?" She sent her response, short and simple. The Council would receive it within the hour. And then, she suspected, the real panic would begin. Captain Gina filed her report from the Scorched Ring colony. But she knew the Council would not believe it without more evidence. She requested permission to continue observing human settlements, and to her surprise, it was granted immediately. The Council wanted answers, and they wanted them fast. Her next destination was the Void Wastes, a region of space filled with debris from an ancient war. Asteroids tumbled through the darkness, colliding randomly and creating fields of deadly shrapnel. Ships avoided this area because navigation was nearly impossible. The computer systems of most species couldn't calculate safe paths through the chaos. Yet human transponder signals dotted the region like stars. Gina ordered her ship to the edge of the field and stopped, watching through her viewport. What she saw made her question everything she knew about survival. A human mining ship, no larger than her own vessel, flew directly into the asteroid field. It didn't slow down. It didn't hesitate. The ship wove between tumbling rocks with grace and speed that seemed impossible. When asteroids came too close, the ship's smaller weapons fired, breaking them into harmless fragments. The human vessel moved like it was dancing, not fighting for survival. "They're treating this like it's normal," Gina's pilot said, his voice filled with awe. "That would take our best pilots years of training, and they're doing it like they're on a leisure cruise." Gina pulled up the data on the mining ship. Its crew was only 5 people, 3 of them were civilians with no military training. The pilot was 24 years old. This wasn't elite skill. This was just standard for them. "Follow at maximum safe distance," she ordered. "I want to see where they're going." The human ship led them deeper into the field, to a location that made Gina's blood run cold. A massive space station hung in the center of the chaos. Anchored to 3 large asteroids, dozens of ships moved around it, coming and going with ease. The station itself was enormous, easily housing thousands of people. "Ma'am, I'm reading farms, manufacturing plants, research laboratories, and residential areas," her science officer reported. "It's a complete city. They're living here, in the middle of the void wastes." A message came through, this time video. A young man's face appeared on screen, smiling. "Eternal Watch. This is Void Station Control. You're welcome to dock if you need anything. We have guest quarters available. Otherwise, please maintain a safe distance from active mining operations. The asteroid traffic can get heavy during shift changes." Gina found her voice. "This is Captain Gina of the Eternal Watch. May I ask why you built a station here? This region is extremely dangerous." The young man laughed. "Dangerous? This is one of the calmer areas, actually. Plus, the mineral deposits here are incredible. We're pulling out rare elements that would take decades to find in safer zones, and honestly, it's kind of fun. Keeps everyone on their toes." "Fun," Gina repeated weakly. "You find this fun?" "Sure. I mean, it's challenging, but that's what makes it interesting. You should see the racing competitions we hold on weekends. Pilots try to make it through the North Field in under 10 minutes. Current record is 7 minutes and 43 seconds. The transmission ended. Gina sat in silence, trying to process what she had just learned. These humans weren't just surviving in hostile environments. They were enjoying it. They were turning deadly challenges into entertainment. On a planet called New Sol, Dr. Hyun-woo worked in his laboratory, surrounded by equipment that hummed and beeped steadily. The planet's gravity was 3 times Earth normal, which meant every movement required more effort. But Hyun-woo had been here for 5 years, and his body had adapted. He barely noticed the weight anymore. His research focused on extreme environment technology. He was developing new shield systems, new hull materials, and new engine designs specifically meant for the worst conditions the galaxy could offer. The Council species built technology to avoid danger. Hyun-woo built technology to embrace it. "Doctor, we're getting interesting readings from the core sample," his assistant called out. She was a young woman named Hana, fresh from Earth and eager to prove herself. "The crystalline structure is unlike anything in the database." Hyun-woo walked over, his heavy boots thudding on the reinforced floor. He examined the sample under the scanner. "Beautiful. This material could revolutionize heat shielding. We could build ships that fly through the outer layers of stars." "Why would anyone want to do that?" Hana asked, puzzled. "Because no one expects it," Hyun-woo said with a grin. "And because the energy readings near stellar surfaces are fascinating. Plus, think of the resources we could harvest from solar storms." A message came through on the facility's communication system. It was from Earth Command, marked as general broadcast to all colonies. Hyun-woo pulled it up on his screen. Admiral Minho's face appeared. His expression was serious but calm. "To all human colonies and stations, the Galactic Council has increased its rhetoric against our expansion. They may attempt to blockade or restrict our movements. All colonies are advised to maintain standard operations. Do not initiate conflict, but defend yourselves if necessary. Earth stands with you. We will not be deterred from our path." The message ended. Hana looked worried. "Do you think they'll really try to stop us?" Hyun-woo shrugged. "They might try, but they don't understand us yet. They think we're being reckless or aggressive. They don't realize we're just being ourselves. Humans have always pushed boundaries. It's how we survived on Earth. It's how we'll thrive out here." Back at the Council headquarters, Counselor Thane studied the reports from multiple reconnaissance missions. He was the Council's chief military strategist, a role he had held for 30 years. He had seen many species rise and fall. He understood power and how it shifted. The reports from Captain Gina and others painted a disturbing picture. Humans were not just in a few dangerous locations. They were everywhere. They had established colonies in radiation zones, gravity wells, asteroid fields, toxic atmospheres, and regions with unstable spatial anomalies, places where council species would need massive resources just to survive. Humans treated as minor inconveniences. But what worried Thane most was the rate of expansion. 50 years ago, humans had one planet. Today, they had over 200 colonies, and were adding more every month. At this rate, in another 50 years, they would outnumber every council species combined. He called for a meeting with High Chancellor Oryx. When he entered the Chancellor's private chamber, he found the old reptilians staring at the same star maps. "You see it too," Oryx said without turning around. "They're not trying to challenge us. They're simply ignoring us. Like we don't matter. Because to them, we don't," Thane said quietly. "We control the safe territories, the easy resources, the comfortable worlds. Humans don't want those. They want the frontier, the challenges, the places we fear. We have nothing they need." Oryx turned to face him. "Then what do we do? If we attack them, we'll be the aggressors. If we do nothing, they'll spread across half the galaxy while we sit in our safe zones. Either way, we lose our authority." Thane pulled up a detailed analysis he had prepared. "There's a third option. We try to understand them. We learn why they do this. And we find a way to coexist that doesn't require us to control them. The other council members will never accept that. They'll see it as weakness. Then they're fools," Thane said bluntly. "Because I've reviewed the data on human ships, human weapons, and human capabilities. Chancellor, if it comes to war, we won't win. They've spent 50 years learning to survive in hell. We've spent 12,000 years getting soft." Oryx was silent for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Prepare a new proposal. We'll try diplomacy one more time. But on their terms, not ours." Far from the council chambers, on a frontier colony called Horizon's Edge, Governor Sora read the reports from Earth with satisfaction. Her colony was doing well. They had established farms in a region where the soil was toxic and the air was thin. But they had adapted, modified, and overcome. The colonists were happy, productive, and growing in number. She looked out at the red sky and smiled. This was what humanity did best. Not conquering, not destroying, but adapting and thriving. The council would learn that soon enough. Everyone would. The council chamber erupted in chaos. 3 member species had formed a coalition without official approval, and they were demanding immediate military action against humanity. Councillor Vreeth stood at the center, his mandibles clicking rapidly as he addressed the assembly. "We cannot wait any longer. The humans have established a new colony in the burning reaches, directly in territory we claimed 300 years ago. This is a clear violation of galactic law. My coalition partners and I are prepared to enforce council authority." High Chancellor Oryx raised his hand for silence, but the chamber remained loud with arguing voices. Councillor Nira tried to speak, but she was drowned out by the shouting. Only when Oryx activated, the chamber's sound dampeners did quiet return. "If you take military action without council approval, you act alone," Oryx warned. "The council will not support you if this escalates." Vreth's compound eyes gleamed. "We don't need support. We need to remind these young humans of their place. 3 of our most powerful fleets against 1 small human colony. They'll surrender immediately, and order will be restored." The vote was called. The motion failed, but the coalition announced they would proceed anyway. Within hours, 3 fleets departed for the human colony of New Haven. Located on a planet orbiting a red giant star, the temperature on the surface reached 500 degrees during the day. The air was thick with sulfur. It was a nightmare world that no sane species would choose to inhabit. But 2,000 humans called it home. Governor Sora received the warning from long-range sensors. 3 alien fleets were approaching, moving in attack formation. She immediately ordered all civilian ships to ground and activated the colony's defense systems. Then, she sent a message to Earth Command. Admiral Minho received the alert while meeting with his senior officers. He read it quickly, his expression darkening. "They're actually doing it. They're threatening one of our colonies." He looked at Fleet Commander Taehyun. "How fast can you get there?" Taehyun was a young officer, only 35 years old, but he had earned his position through skill and quick thinking. "The response fleet can depart in 20 minutes. We'll arrive 6 hours before the coalition forces reach New Haven." "Make it 15 minutes, Minho said. "And Taehyun, remember the rules of engagement. We don't fire first. We don't start wars. But we absolutely finish them." Taehyun saluted and left at a run. Within 12 minutes, 15 human warships launched from Earth's orbital stations. They jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished from normal space. On New Haven, Governor Sora addressed her colonists. The entire population gathered in the main dome, their faces calm despite the threat. These were people who had chosen to live on a world that tried to kill them every day. A few alien ships didn't frighten them. "The defense platforms are active," Sora explained. "Our shields are at full power. And Earth is sending help. We just need to stay calm and be ready." She looked around at the faces of her people. This colony has survived dust storms that could strip paint from steel. We've survived quakes that registered 9 on the Richter scale. We've survived equipment failures, supply shortages, and a viral outbreak that would have killed most species. 3 alien fleets don't scare us. The crowd cheered. Not with fear or anger, but with determination. They returned to their posts and prepared for whatever came next. The coalition fleet arrived at New Haven first, as expected. 300 ships surrounded the planet, their weapons charged and ready. Counselor Vreth himself commanded the operation from his flagship. He sent a message to the colony below. "Attention, human settlement. You are in violation of Galactic Council law. Evacuate this planet immediately, or face military consequences. You have 1 hour to comply." Governor Sora responded calmly. "This is Governor Sora of New Haven Colony. This planet was unclaimed when we arrived. We have committed no crimes. We will not abandon our home because you decided you want it now. You have no authority here." Vreth's anger was clear in his response. "You dare defy the council? We have 3 fleets here. You have nothing." "We have everything we need," Sora said simply. "We have our home. And we have each other. That's enough." The hour passed. Vreth gave the order to power weapons and prepare to fire on the colony's shields. But before his fleet could attack, 15 new ships appeared in the system. Human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, positioning themselves between the colony and the coalition fleet. Fleet Commander Taehyun's voice broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Fleet Commander Taehyun of the United Earth Defense Force. New Haven is a human colony on unclaimed territory. Any attack on this colony will be considered an act of war against all of humanity. Stand down immediately." Vreth laughed, a harsh, chittering sound. 15 ships against 300? You cannot be serious." "I'm completely serious," Taehyun replied. "But I'll make you an offer. You can leave now, peacefully, and we'll forget this happened. Or you can stay and learn why humans don't fear dangerous places." Vreth ordered his fleet to advance. The human ships didn't move. They simply hung in space, waiting. The coalition ships came closer. Weapons locked on targets. Still, the humans didn't fire. Captain Gina watched from a safe distance, her ship monitoring the situation for the council. She had been ordered to observe and report. What she saw next would haunt her for the rest of her life. The coalition fleet opened fire first, launching missiles and energy beams at the human ships. The humans' defensive systems activated instantly. Point defense lasers shot down missiles with perfect accuracy. Energy shields deflected beam weapons like they were nothing. And then, the human ships moved. They didn't move like normal spacecraft. They moved like fighters, like atmospheric craft, with turns and accelerations that should have been impossible in space. The human vessels split into 3 groups, each group engaging one of the coalition fleets with devastating efficiency. Taehyun's flagship accelerated directly toward Vreeth's command ship. Vreeth ordered evasive maneuvers, but his ship was too slow. The human warship was suddenly beside him, matching his course exactly. Taehyun's voice came through again. Your shields are down to 60%. Your weapons can't track fast enough to hit us. Your engines are slower than ours. This is your last warning. Stand down. Vreeth, in his pride and fury, ordered his entire fleet to focus fire on Taehyun's ship. 300 ships fired at once, a massive barrage of energy and metal that lit up space like a new sun. When the light faded, Taehyun's ship was still there, shields at 40% but holding, and then the human fleet fired back. They didn't try to destroy the coalition ships. They targeted specific systems with surgical precision. Engines were disabled. Weapons were neutralized. Communication arrays were destroyed. In less than 5 minutes, 300 coalition ships floated helplessly in space, unable to fight, unable to run, unable to even call for help. Taehyun broadcast one final message. This is what happens when you threaten human colonies. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. Remember that. Tell your council that humanity will defend itself, but we don't seek war. We just want to be left alone to build our lives in peace. The human fleet launched repair drones toward the disabled ships, making sure no one would die from life support failures. Then they returned to their positions around New Haven and waited. Captain Gina sent her report to the council with shaking hands. She included every scan, every recording, every detail of what she had witnessed. The human ships were faster, more maneuverable, better armed, and better defended than anything the council had. And they had shown mercy when they could have shown destruction. At the council chambers, panic truly set in. Councillor Vreth's humiliating defeat had been broadcast across the galaxy. Every species now knew the truth. Humans could not be controlled by force. They could not be intimidated. They could not be stopped. High Chancellor Oryx sat alone in his private chamber, reading Captain Gina's full report. At the end, she had added a personal note. They're not trying to conquer us. They're just trying to live. But if we push them, if we force them to fight, we'll lose. It won't even be close. Oryx knew she was right. The question now was whether the council could swallow its pride and adapt to this new reality. Or would they keep pushing until the humans decided they had no choice but to push back? He called for an emergency session. It was time for the council to face the truth, whether they liked it or not. The age of council dominance was over. A new age had begun, and humanity was leading the way into it. Councillor Nira couldn't sleep. The images from the New Haven incident played in her mind over and over. She had warned the council, but they hadn't listened. Now 3 fleets sat disabled in space, a humiliating reminder of what happened when pride overruled wisdom. She walked through the empty corridors of the council archives at night, seeking answers. The archives were old, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. Records stretched back 12,000 years to the founding of the council itself. Most counselors never visited these halls. The past was the past, and they were focused on the present. But Nira believed the past held answers. She searched through ancient files, looking for something. Anything that might explain why humans were so different. The archives were vast, and many sections were marked as restricted. She had never questioned these restrictions before. Now she wondered what secrets they hid. Using her council credentials, Nira accessed a restricted section marked Historical Records, Pre-Council Era. The files were ancient, some of them barely readable even with modern technology. She began reading, and what she found changed everything she thought she knew. 12,000 years ago, the galaxy was not the safe, orderly place it was today. It was a battlefield of survival. Species fought not just each other, but the galaxy itself. Radiation storms swept through entire sectors. Rogue planets collided with inhabited worlds. Dangerous predator species hunted anything weaker than themselves. The Council was formed not as a government but as a survival pact. The founding species were desperate, terrified, and on the edge of extinction. They banded together and made a simple agreement. We will help each other survive, and we will avoid the dangerous places that killed our ancestors. Over thousands of years, the pact worked. The Council species grew safe, comfortable, and prosperous. They built their civilizations in the calmest, most stable regions of space. They marked the dangerous zones as forbidden and taught their children to fear them. And slowly, over generations, they forgot why the Council had been created in the first place. They forgot that their ancestors had once been brave explorers who faced the galaxy's dangers head-on. They forgot that survival came from adaptation, not avoidance. They became soft, comfortable, and complacent. The Council transformed from a survival pact into an empire of safety. Nira found records of 3 species that had refused to join the Council in those early days. All 3 had eventually gone extinct. Not from war but from exploring regions too dangerous even for them. The records noted their deaths as tragic warnings about the price of recklessness. But one line in the ancient text made Nira pause. They died as they lived, pushing boundaries we dared not cross. Perhaps one day, a species will arise that can survive where they could not. She pulled up data on Earth's location in the galaxy. It was far from Council space. In a region filled with cosmic hazards and unstable stars. It was exactly the kind of place the Council founders would have marked as forbidden. But humans had evolved there, adapted to it, and eventually thrived in it. Nira suddenly understood. Humans weren't defying the Council out of arrogance or aggression. They were simply being what they had always been. A species that conquered hostile environments, because that was the only way they knew how to survive. She compiled her findings into a report and requested an emergency meeting with High Chancellor Oryx. To her surprise, she found Counselor Thane already in the Chancellor's chamber when she arrived. "I've been reviewing the same archives," Thane said when he saw her shocked expression. "I reached the same conclusion you did." Oryx gestured for Nira to sit. "Share your findings with both of us. I need multiple perspectives on this." Nira presented everything she had discovered. The forgotten history of the Council's founding. The transformation from survivors to administrators. The loss of courage that had made the Council possible in the first place. "We became what we are by avoiding danger," she concluded. "Humans became what they are by facing it. We're not better or worse than them. We're just different. And the galaxy is big enough for both approaches." Thane added his own analysis. "I've studied human military capabilities extensively. Their technology isn't necessarily more advanced than ours. It's optimized differently. Where we build shields to block damage completely, they build shields that can take some damage and keep working. Where we avoid hostile environments, they develop technology specifically for those environments. Every choice they make is about adaptation, not protection." Oryx listened in silence, his ancient eyes thoughtful. Finally, he spoke. "I want you to arrange a meeting with someone who might have more answers. Elder Krill is the oldest living being in Council space. He was alive when the Council was young. If anyone remembers what we used to be, it's him." 3 days later, Nira found herself on a small, peaceful world where Elder Krill had retired centuries ago. He was a member of a species that aged very slowly, and though he was nearly 8,000 years old, his mind was still sharp. Krill sat in a garden filled with strange, beautiful plants. When Nira explained why she had come, the old being smiled sadly. "I wondered when someone would finally ask these questions," Krill said in a voice like wind through leaves. "Yes, I remember the old days. I remember when we were afraid every moment of every day. I remember when survival meant taking risks, not avoiding them." "What happened to us?" Nira asked. "How did we forget?" "We didn't forget," Krill replied. "We chose to forget. It was easier, safer. We told ourselves that avoiding danger was wisdom, not cowardice. We told ourselves that the dangerous regions were worthless, not that we were too afraid to explore them. We built a comfortable lie, and lived in it for so long that it became truth. And now humans have shown us the lie, Thane said quietly. He had accompanied Nira to hear Krill's testimony. Humans are what we used to be, Krill confirmed. Before we became comfortable. Before we became bureaucrats and administrators. They're explorers, survivors, and adapters. They'll spread across the galaxy not because they want to conquer it, but because that's simply what they do. It's in their nature. Can we coexist with them? Nira asked. Krill laughed, a sound like bells chiming. Of course. But not as their superiors or their rulers. As their partners, perhaps. As their students. Definitely, they have much to teach us about courage, if we're brave enough to learn. On Earth, Archivist Junho sat in his office at the University of New Tokyo, studying galactic history. He was a human historian who had spent 20 years learning everything he could about the Council and its member species. He had always wondered why they seemed so timid, so afraid of taking risks. Now, with access to newly declassified Council archives that Nira had shared with him, he understood. The Council species had survived by avoiding danger. Humans had survived by confronting it. Neither approach was wrong. They were just different strategies for the same goal. Staying alive and building civilizations. Junho prepared a report for Earth's government. In it, he explained that the Council wasn't humanity's enemy. They were simply people who had chosen a different path long ago. If humanity wanted peaceful coexistence, they needed to understand and respect that choice, even if they didn't share it. Ambassador Yuna read Junho's report with great interest. She had been preparing for the possibility of war, but now she saw another path. She sent a message to the Council, her first direct communication since declining their original summons. To the Galactic Council, her message began. We understand your concern about our expansion. We understand that our methods seem strange and reckless to you, but we're not trying to challenge your authority or threaten your people. We're simply doing what humans have always done. Exploring, adapting, and building homes in places others consider impossible. We would like to meet with you, not to negotiate, surrender, or submission, but to discuss how we can share this galaxy in peace. The universe is vast enough for all of us. High Chancellor Oryx read the message and felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Hope. Perhaps the Council's age of dominance was ending. But perhaps something better could take its place. An age of cooperation, of mutual respect, of learning from each other's strengths, instead of fearing each other's differences. He called for a full Council assembly and presented everything they had learned. The ancient history, the forgotten courage, the human perspective, and the possibility of a new relationship. We have a choice, Oryx told the assembled counselors. We can cling to our old ways and watch as the galaxy passes us by. Or we can adapt, learn, and grow. Ironically, we can learn from humans the very lesson our ancestors knew. Survival requires flexibility, not rigidity. The vote was called. It wasn't unanimous, but it passed. The Council would meet with humanity, not as judges but as equals. The location would be Earth itself, humanity's homeworld. It was a gesture of respect and a recognition that the old order had changed forever. As the Council prepared for the historic journey, Captain Gina volunteered to be part of the delegation. She wanted to see Earth, to understand the world that had produced such remarkable people. She wanted to learn how a death world had created a civilization that could thrive anywhere. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, it was also exciting. The Council delegation arrived at Earth on a clear morning. Their ships descended through the atmosphere, and for the first time, Council members saw a human world with their own eyes. What they witnessed challenged every assumption they had held. Earth was beautiful, but it was also terrifying. Massive oceans covered most of the surface, filled with storms that could destroy cities. Mountain ranges reached heights that made breathing difficult. Deserts stretched for thousands of miles where temperatures could kill in hours. And everywhere, in every biome, humans lived and thrived. High Chancellor Oryx stood at the viewport of his shuttle, watching a hurricane swirl off the coast of a continent. Near that hurricane, Barely 100 miles away stood a gleaming city of millions. The humans hadn't built their city far from danger. They had built it despite the danger. Or perhaps because of it. They could have chosen safer locations, Counselor Thane observed. But they didn't. They built where the challenge was greatest. Captain Gina pointed to the shuttle's sensor readings. The atmosphere has 21% oxygen. That's toxic levels for most species. The gravity is standard for them but would exhaust many of our people within hours. And look at this. The planet is geologically active. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tectonic shifts are common. This world is constantly trying to kill anything living on it. And yet they call it home, Counselor Nira said softly. Because to them, this is normal. This is what they know. The shuttle landed at a facility built on the shore of a vast lake. The building was elegant and simple, designed to welcome visitors while showcasing human architecture. Secretary General Minji waited at the entrance, flanked by Admiral Minho and Ambassador Yuna. Minji was a woman in her 60s, with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen much of the galaxy through diplomatic channels. She had led Earth's government for 8 years, and had guided humanity through its expansion into the stars. Now, she would guide them through the most important meeting in human history. Welcome to Earth, Minji said warmly as the council delegation disembarked. We're honored to host you. Please, come inside. We have much to discuss. The meeting room was circular, with windows overlooking the lake. The council members were provided with environmental suits to help them adjust to Earth's atmosphere and gravity. Even with assistance, many of them moved carefully, their bodies struggling with conditions humans barely noticed. Minji began the discussion simply and directly. We know why you're here. You're concerned about human expansion. You're worried about our disregard for your laws. You wonder if we're a threat to galactic peace. I'm here to give you honest answers. Oryx appreciated her directness. Then, let me be equally direct. Why do you reject the Council's authority? Why do you colonize regions we specifically marked as too dangerous for habitation? And why did you refuse to negotiate until now? Minji smiled. Those are actually 3 questions with the same answer. We don't reject your authority over your own territories. We respect your sovereignty completely, but we don't recognize your authority over places you've abandoned. As for the dangerous regions, what you call dangerous, we call home. And we didn't refuse to negotiate. We simply refused to negotiate from a position where you assumed you had authority over us. We're equals, Chancellor. That's the basis for any real discussion between us. Thane leaned forward. You must understand our perspective. For 12,000 years, the Council has maintained order by controlling expansion. Without that control, we fear chaos. But you don't have chaos, Admiral Minho interjected. You have humans doing what humans do. We're not invading your worlds. We're not attacking your people. We're not even competing for the same resources. We're going to places you don't want and building lives there. How does that threaten you? The question hung in the air. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Finally, Councillor Vreth, who had led the failed coalition against New Haven, spoke. His voice was subdued, lacking its usual arrogance. It threatens us because it reveals our weakness, he admitted. For thousands of years, we've told ourselves that we control the galaxy. But you've shown that we only control the easy parts. The safe parts, the parts that require no courage to inhabit, Nira added gently. You remind us of what we used to be, before we became comfortable. That's frightening for many of us. Minji nodded with understanding. Then let me propose something different. Instead of seeing us as a threat, see us as an opportunity. Humans will continue expanding into frontier regions. That's not negotiable. It's who we are. But that expansion can benefit everyone. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Blue markers indicated human colonies, while green zones showed council territories. The two barely overlapped. Look at this. We're not taking your space. We're filling in the gaps you left empty. We're creating new settlements, new trade routes, and new possibilities in regions you abandoned. Instead of fearing this, why not benefit from it? Oryx studied the map carefully. What exactly are you proposing? Partnership, Minji said simply. The council continues to govern its traditional territories. Humans expand into the frontier zones. In exchange for your recognition of our sovereignty in those regions, we offer 3 things. First, we'll defend council space from external threats. Our military capabilities are suited for rapid response and operating in hostile conditions. Second, we'll share our technology for extreme environment adaptation. Any council species that wants to reclaim their courage and explore can do so with our help. Third, we'll establish trade relationships that benefit everyone. The resources we gather from hostile regions are valuable, and we're willing to trade them. You're offering us protection? Vreth asked, his mandibles clicking in what might have been offense or surprise. We're offering cooperation, Minho corrected. You have things we can learn from. Thousands of years of culture, art, science, and wisdom. We have things you can learn from. New perspectives, new technologies, new approaches to old problems. Why not share? Captain Gina, who had been silent until now, spoke up. I've observed human colonies extensively. I've seen what you can do. If I may speak freely, Chancellor, we need them more than they need us. That's the truth none of us want to admit. The room fell silent. It was a harsh truth, but it was truth nonetheless. The Council had nothing humans desperately wanted, but humans had much the Council needed, especially as other species began to realize that the dangerous zones weren't as impossible as they had been taught. Oryx looked at his fellow Council members. He saw acceptance in many faces, resignation in others, and in a few, the first hints of excitement. You've given us much to consider. But I have one more question. What happens when humans fill all the frontier zones? Where do you expand then? Minji's smile was genuine and warm. Chancellor, the universe is vast. The Milky Way galaxy alone has 400 billion star systems. We've colonized 200 of them. Do the math. We'll be busy for a very, very long time. And who knows? Maybe by then, we'll have figured out how to reach other galaxies. The frontier never really ends. There's always somewhere new to explore. The meeting continued for hours. Details were discussed, agreements were drafted, and compromises were reached. The final document, signed by both Secretary General Minji and High Chancellor Oryx, established a new framework for galactic relations. The Council would maintain full authority over its traditional territories. Human expansion into frontier zones would be recognized as legitimate. Joint defense agreements would protect both human and Council worlds. Technology sharing would be voluntary but encouraged. And most importantly, both sides agreed to respect each other's sovereignty and choices. As the Council delegation prepared to depart, Oryx found himself standing with Minji, looking out at the lake. A storm was gathering on the horizon, dark clouds rolling in with impressive speed. Shouldn't we go inside? Oryx asked, nervously. Minji laughed. That's just a thunderstorm. It'll pass over in an hour, maybe less. Humans have been watching storms like that for hundreds of thousands of years. They're beautiful, in their own way. You see beauty in danger, Oryx observed. That's the difference between us. Maybe, Minji agreed. Or maybe we just see opportunity where you see threats. But that's okay. The galaxy needs both kinds of people. The ones who build safe homes, and the ones who push boundaries. Together, we're stronger than either would be alone. Oryx nodded slowly. I hope you're right. For all our sakes. 3 months later, the new agreements were fully implemented. Human colonies continued expanding. But now, with Council recognition and support, trade began flowing between human frontier settlements and Council worlds. Council species started sending their own explorers to work with human colonies, learning how to survive in hostile environments. Captain Gina accepted a new position as an ambassador, specifically tasked with facilitating cooperation between Council species and human settlements. She joined a colony expedition to the Aurora Wastes, a region of space filled with electromagnetic storms and radiation bursts. The human colonists welcomed her warmly and immediately began teaching her their methods. On her first night in the colony, Gina stood on an observation deck, watching purple and blue auroras dance across the sky as radiation storms interacted with the planet's magnetic field. It was dangerous, beautiful, and utterly unlike anything she had experienced in council space. A young human woman named Hannah stood beside her, also watching the display. Beautiful, isn't it? This is why we came here. Most people see danger. We see home. Gina found herself smiling. I'm starting to understand that. It's not recklessness. It's just a different way of seeing the universe. Exactly, Hannah agreed. And now that we're working together, maybe we can show the whole galaxy what's possible when you're not afraid to take risks. Back on Earth, Admiral Minho stood in his office, looking at star maps showing human expansion. Ambassador Yuna was with him, reviewing the latest reports from new colonies. Do you think it'll last? Yuna asked. The peace with the Council? Minho considered the question carefully. I think it'll last because it has to. They need us to defend the frontiers they're afraid of. We need them to maintain the safe zones we don't have time to manage. It's not friendship yet, but it's mutual respect. That's a good start. And when other species start expanding too, following our example, then the galaxy becomes a more interesting place, Minho said with a slight smile. Competition breeds excellence. If others want to push boundaries too, good. The universe is big enough for everyone who's brave enough to explore it. High Chancellor Oryx sat in his chamber, reading reports from across the galaxy. The news was mixed, but mostly positive. Some council species were embracing the new era, sending their people to learn from humans. Others remained cautious, preferring their traditional ways. But everywhere, there was change. The galaxy was waking up from its long period of comfortable stagnation. He pulled up a message from Secretary General Minji, sent earlier that day. It was simple and friendly. An update on a joint defense exercise that had gone well. Oryx replied with equal warmth, confirming the next diplomatic meeting. As he worked, Oryx realized something surprising. He wasn't afraid anymore. The panic that had gripped the Council when humans first declined their summons had faded, replaced by cautious optimism. Humans weren't conquerors or threats. They were just different. And different wasn't dangerous. Different was interesting. The galaxy was changing. And for the first time in thousands of years, that change felt like progress rather than threat.